My name is Clara Weston. I am 34 years old. And the Sunday my mother sent a group text to 47 people telling them my husband had finally left me. My husband was sitting beside me on our own couch, holding my hand, reading the message over my shoulder at the exact moment it arrived. I did not cry. I did not call her. I took a screenshot. I forwarded it to my attorney. Then I poured my husband a second cup of coffee and told him it was time. We had been waiting for her to do something we could prove. She had just done it in writing to 47 witnesses. What she did not know, what nobody in that group text knew, was that 3 months earlier, I had quietly bought the building that housed her catering company. Her lease was up for renewal in 11 days. My signature was already on the non-renewal letter, sitting sealed in my desk drawer. The letter I would hand her in person, in front of her own staff, at her 60th birthday luncheon the following Saturday. But to understand why a daughter buys her mother's building and waits, you have to understand the 19 years that came before that Sunday morning. So let me take you back to the first lie. I was 15 when my mother told a room full of her friends I had been caught shoplifting at the Belk in Fayetteville. I had not. I had never stolen anything in my life. I had been at a mandatory SAT prep session at the public library from 9 that morning until 3 that afternoon. The librarian, Mrs. Dunham, had signed a yellow attendance slip. I still have it in a shoebox in my closet, 19 years later, slightly brown at the edges. My mother told the story at her book club on a Wednesday evening, and by Friday, 3 neighbors had stopped speaking to me at the bus stop. My father had been laid off from the paper mill in February of that year. My mother had taken the catering business she ran out of our kitchen and moved it into a rented storefront on Main Street that March. The storefront cost $1,800 a month. Our family could not afford $1,800 a month. But my mother had always been good at one thing, and only one thing, making other people agree to be the reason her life was hard. That day at the book club was the first time I understood she had chosen me as her reason. My father did not defend me. He sat in the kitchen that Friday evening, drinking a beer, and when I asked him why Mom had said it, he looked at the Formica counter and said, "Honey, you know how she is. Let it go. Let it go." Those 3 words. I heard them every time something like it happened for the next 19 years. Let it go when she told my high school boyfriend's mother I had been hospitalized for an eating disorder I never had. Let it go when she told the admissions counselor at UNC Chapel Hill I was applying on a trust fund that did not exist. Let it go when she told my freshman year roommate's parents I came from a family of means they would not have to worry about. Let it go when I learned at 22 that my mother had been putting my name on the catering business's bank signature card since I was 16, using my social security number to sign for credit lines she couldn't get on her own, paying them off just enough each month to keep the accounts breathing. If you are still here with me, if this story is starting to sound like a story you already know, drop the name of your town in the comments and tell me you are listening. Go ahead and hit the like button. It helps me tell more of these. And if you are sitting with someone you trust right now, squeeze their hand once for the version of you that was 15 and had to learn that your own mother will say anything to be the center of a room. I see you. Let me keep going. I met Ryan the fall I turned 24. I was in graduate school in Raleigh for clinical social work. He was finishing his MBA at Duke. He was from Ohio. He was kind in a way I did not recognize at first, the quiet kind of kind, the kind that does not need to be noticed to keep happening. He listened when I talked. He did not interrupt. He remembered the names of my professors. The first time I brought him home to Fayetteville for Thanksgiving, my mother spent 20 minutes at the dinner table describing, in loving detail, a boyfriend I had never had. His name, she said, was Brandon. Brandon had been a medical student. Brandon had broken my heart in such a terrible way that the family did not like to speak of it. Brandon was the reason I had gone to therapy for 2 years, she said, looking at Ryan with the pity of a mother who had witnessed too much. There had been no Brandon. I had never been in therapy. I had not dated anyone seriously before Ryan. I sat at the table with my hands folded in my lap, and I listened to my mother invent a boyfriend for me the way other mothers knit scarves. Ryan, to his credit, nodded politely, said how sorry he was to hear it, and passed the green bean casserole. In the car on the way back to the hotel, he finally spoke. "Clara," he said, "who is Brandon?" I started to laugh. I laughed for a full 2 minutes, the kind of laugh that is not laughter at all but a thing the body does when the body does not know what else to do. Then I told him. Not all of it. I could not yet. But enough. Enough that he reached across the center console and took my hand and said, "I believe you. And whenever you're ready to tell me the rest, I will still believe you." That was the first night of the rest of my life. I just did not know it yet. Ryan and I got married 3 years later at a small vineyard in Hillsborough. 60 people. My mother gave a toast that was not a toast. She spoke for 12 minutes about her own wedding to my father, about the sacrifices she had made, about how proud she was of the woman I had become despite, she said, the difficulties of my adolescence. The word despite hung in the room like smoke. A cousin of Ryan's leaned over to her husband and whispered something I did not catch. Ryan's mother, Diane, a quiet woman who ran a small accounting firm in Columbus, watched my mother across the table with an expression I would later come to recognize as the expression of a woman taking notes. Diane had been married to Ryan's father for 34 years. Diane knew what love sounds like when it is said out loud. What my mother had just performed was not love. It was invoice reading. Diane knew the difference. The year after we married, Ryan took a job with a commercial real estate firm in Raleigh. He was good at it. He was patient in a business built on patience. By the time we had been married 6 years, he was a junior partner, and we had saved, carefully, deliberately, a sum of money I had never seen in my family growing up. Not a fortune. Not enough to be rich. Enough to be free. Enough to make choices. The first choice we made was to buy a small house on a quiet street in Raleigh. The second choice we made, 2 years later, was to start looking at commercial properties as investments. Ryan had a colleague, a woman named Monica, who specialized in small retail strips, the kind of buildings with a dry cleaner and a nail salon and a barbecue place and a catering company. Monica sent us listings every month. I scrolled through them on Sunday afternoons with a cup of coffee. It was a game, almost. A Sunday game. In March of the year I turned 34, Monica sent a listing I did not open for 3 days. When I finally opened it, I sat at the kitchen island for a long time without moving. The property was a 4-unit strip on Main Street in Fayetteville. The owner was retiring. The anchor tenant, the largest of the 4 units, was a catering company called Weston Family Catering. My mother's business. The business she had built, she said, from nothing. The business she had put my name on the signature card of when I was 16 years old. The business whose lease was up for renewal in 9 months. I called Ryan at his office. I told him what I was looking at. He was quiet for a long time. "Clara," he said finally, "what do you want to do?" I told him I did not know yet. I told him I needed to think. I told him I needed to look at the numbers. But under all of that, under the calm voice I had practiced for 19 years, there was a thing I was not yet ready to say out loud. The thing was this. I wanted to own the floor she stood on. Not to evict her. Not to ruin her. I wanted to own the floor she stood on because I had spent 19 years being told, in 1,000 small ways, that she owned the floor I stood on. I wanted to know what it felt like to stand on ground she could not move. Ryan did not talk me into it. Ryan did not talk me out of it. Ryan did what Ryan had been doing for 10 years. He listened. He ran the numbers with me. He introduced me to a corporate attorney in Charlotte named Adrienne Booker, a black woman in her 50s with a voice like a closing argument and a reputation for making men in rooms go very still when she began to speak. Adrienne walked us through the structure. The purchase would be made through a holding LLC. The LLC would be owned by a second holding company. The second holding company would be owned, ultimately, by me. Not Ryan. Not us. Me. Adrian was specific about that. Clara, she said, if this is what I think it is, the ownership needs to be clean. Yours. Only yours. When the day comes that your mother learns who her landlord is, there can be no confusion about whose signature is on the deed. I nodded. I signed. In late June, 5 months before my mother's 60th birthday, the building became mine. She did not know. No one in my family knew. The property management company we hired was based in Charlotte. The rent checks my mother had been writing for 14 years continued to be deposited into an account she assumed belonged to an elderly man named Mr. Haverford, who had owned the building since 1987. Mr. Haverford had retired to Florida. Mr. Haverford did not know my mother. I did. I want you to understand something about the 4 months between June and October of that year. I did not gloat. I did not tell my sister. I did not tell my father. I did not drive past the building for the satisfaction of driving past it. I went to work. I saw my clients. I made dinner with my husband. I read books on the back porch in the evening. I let the building sit in my life the way a sealed envelope sits on a counter, containing something true, waiting for the right day to be opened. The right day, I already knew, would be my mother's 60th birthday. She had been planning the luncheon for a year. 60 people. The private room at the country club in Fayetteville. A string quartet. A photographer. My mother had turned 60 into a production. She had called me in July to tell me I would be giving the daughter's toast. Not asked. Told. You'll wear the green dress, she said on the phone. The one for Man's wedding. And Clara, please don't be dramatic. This is my day. I said yes. I had always said yes. I said yes the way you say yes to a person you have already decided to stop saying yes to, because the last yes should land somewhere memorable. In early October, 3 weeks before the luncheon, my younger sister called me on a Tuesday afternoon. And is 31. And had married a decent man named Kevin and had 2 small children and a house in Charlotte and a life that had, through some combination of luck and willed distance, mostly escaped the weather system that was our mother. And called because and had heard something. Clara, she said, her voice low, Mom told the Hendersons at church on Sunday that Ryan was having an affair. I sat down on the kitchen floor. I did not say anything for a full 30 seconds. And filled the silence the way and had always filled silences, nervously, apologetically. I don't think she believes it, and said. I think she's just setting up a story. She's been doing it for a few months. Last month it was that Ryan hated the South. Before that it was that you two had fertility problems. Clara, I think she's building towards something. I don't know what. But I wanted you to know. I thanked Anne. I hung up. I sat on the kitchen floor for another 10 minutes. Ryan came home at 6 and found me still there. He did not ask what was wrong. He sat down on the floor next to me. He put his arm around my shoulders. He waited. When I told him, he did not get angry. Ryan does not get angry the way other men get angry. Ryan gets quiet, and inside the quiet, a plan assembles itself. Clara, he said finally, she's going to say something she can't take back. And she's going to say it in writing. I want you to be ready when she does. I nodded. I was ready. I had been ready for 19 years. I just had not known I was waiting. The Sunday before her birthday luncheon, October the 15th, Ryan and I were on our couch at 11 in the morning. I had a cup of coffee. Ryan was reading the weekend paper. The dog was asleep on the rug. My phone buzzed. I picked it up. It was a text message from my mother, sent to a group. I counted the recipients before I read the message. 47, the message said, please pray for Clara. Ryan left last night. She's devastated. She'll need us more than ever at my luncheon this Saturday. Your love will get her through this terrible time. Mom. I read the message twice. I turned my phone so Ryan could see it. Ryan set the paper down. He looked at the screen. He looked at me. He looked at the dog. He looked back at the screen. Then, very calmly, he stood up and walked to the kitchen and came back with a dish towel and handed it to me, because I had spilled my coffee on my leg and had not noticed. "Clara," he said, "take the screenshot." I took the screenshot. I took 3 screenshots, actually. One of the message itself. One of the group of 47 recipients. One of the timestamp. I sent all 3 to Adrian Booker. Adrian replied within 11 minutes. Document it. Do not respond. Do not reply in the group. Do nothing on social media. Call me tomorrow morning at 9. This is the written evidence we have been waiting for. I set my phone face down on the coffee table. I looked at Ryan. Ryan was already looking at me. "Saturday," he said. "Saturday," I said. We did not need to say more than that. The letter sealed in my desk drawer, the one I had signed in July and post-dated for the following Monday, the non-renewal letter to Weston Family Catering, had just gotten a companion. I walked upstairs. I opened the drawer. I took the letter out. I laid it on my desk next to the screenshot of my mother's group text. I looked at both pieces of paper for a long time. 2 documents. 2 sentences. One was hers. One was mine. Hers had been written in panic and performance and the certainty that no one would ever look too closely. Mine had been written in a law office in Charlotte in the slow, patient handwriting of a woman who had finally stopped letting it go. Monday morning at 9, I called Adrian Booker from my office. She picked up on the first ring. "Clara," she said, "good morning. I have been thinking about your situation all weekend. Before I give you my analysis, I need to ask you one question. What outcome do you want?" I sat at my desk with my hand on the screenshot I had printed out and placed in a plain manila folder. I looked at the folder for a moment. "Adrian," I said, "I want my mother to understand, one time, in a room where she cannot rewrite the story afterward, that I have been awake for all 19 years she thought I was sleeping. I do not want her destroyed. I want her landed. I want her to put her feet on the ground and know the ground is mine." Adrian was quiet for a moment. "All right," she said. "Then here is what we are going to do." She walked me through it. The group text, sent to 47 recipients, was written defamation under North Carolina law. It made a specific factual claim, that my husband had left me, that could be proven false with a single photograph. It had been distributed to a defined audience that included friends, extended family, my mother's business contacts, and, Adrian noted dryly, 2 pastors. It had been sent with the apparent intent to generate sympathy and social capital at a public event the following Saturday. Adrian said she would draft a cease and desist letter that afternoon. She would also prepare a formal demand for retraction, to be delivered by certified mail to my mother's home and to the catering company. Now, Adrian said, about the building. I had been waiting for this. The lease renewal on Weston Family Catering is up in 11 days, Adrian said. Your non-renewal letter is already signed. I recommend we do not mail it. I recommend you deliver it in person. On Saturday. At the luncheon. In front of whatever witnesses she has gathered. I closed my eyes. I had been carrying that letter in my desk drawer for 3 months. I had not yet decided how I wanted it to leave my hand. Adrian had just given me the answer. Adrian, I said, do it clean. I don't want a single word in that letter that sounds like I wrote it in anger. I want it to sound like a Tuesday morning at the county clerk's office. Adrian laughed, short and dry. Clara, she said, I have been writing letters like that for 26 years. Trust me. By Wednesday, the story had moved. And called me at 2 in the afternoon. She was whispering. She was at a Publix in Charlotte, she said, because her husband Kevin did not yet know she was calling me this often. Clara, she said, Mom has rented the string quartet a second hour. She has also called the photographer and told him to be ready for a moment of prayer for you during the luncheon. A moment of prayer. For you. I closed the door of my office. And, I said, has she told Dad? And was quiet. Dad knows something is wrong, she said. I don't think he knows what. He called me yesterday and asked if you were okay. I told him to call you. He said he didn't want to bother you with Ryan gone. Clara, he believes it. He believes her. I sat with that. I did not cry. I had done my crying about my father many years ago, in stages, the way you cry about a person who is alive but has chosen, again and again, to be absent. My father was not cruel. My father was tired. My father had married a woman who consumed oxygen, and he had made the decision, sometime around 1994, that the cost of breathing in her presence was lower than the cost of leaving. I did not hate him for that. I understood him. I simply had stopped needing him to save me, because I had become a woman who did not require saving. And, I said, on Saturday, I need you to do one thing. When I stand up to give my toast, I need you to put down your fork. Don't react to anything I say. Don't defend me. Don't speak. Just put your fork down. That is all I'm asking. And was quiet for a long time. Clara, she said, what are you going to do? I told her the truth. I am going to hand Mom a piece of paper, I said, and I am going to say 9 sentences, and then I am going to sit back down. That is all. Is Ryan coming? And asked. I smiled into the phone. Ryan, I said, has been coming since the day I met him. Thursday evening, Ryan and I sat at the kitchen island with 3 folders spread out in front of us. Folder 1 was the defamation file, the group text screenshots, Adrian's cease and desist draft, a list of the 47 recipients with notes on who had replied to the message and what they had said. Folder 2 was the building file, the deed, the LLC structure, the lease, the non-renewal letter, and a 1-page summary Adrian had prepared in plain English explaining exactly what the non-renewal meant and when my mother would need to vacate the premises. Folder 3 was the one I had not told Ryan about. I slid it across the island to him. What's this? He asked. Open it, I said. Inside folder 3 was a single sheet of paper. On the paper was a list of 9 dates, spanning 18 years, each one corresponding to a specific lie my mother had told about me in front of specific witnesses. Next to each date, a name. The librarian Mrs. Dunham. My high school boyfriend's mother. The admissions counselor at UNC. My freshman roommate's parents. The pastor at the Methodist church. Diane, Ryan's mother. Adrian Booker, during our first meeting, when I had recited my history for the intake form. And, 6 years ago, when she had called me crying because our mother had told her I had refused to attend her baby shower. Ryan, at the Thanksgiving table in 2019, when my mother had invented a boyfriend named Brandon. Ryan read the list. He read it twice. Then he looked up at me, and his eyes were wet, and he said only one word. Saturday. Saturday, I said. We did not speak for a long time after that. He took my hand across the island. The dog put her chin on my foot under the counter. The house was very quiet. It was the quiet of 2 people who have decided something together and do not need to repeat it to each other out loud. Friday afternoon at 3, a registered letter arrived at my mother's house. I know this because the tracking confirmation pinged on my phone. It was the cease and desist. Adrian had drafted it in her driest voice. It stated, in 2 pages, that my client, Clara Weston, had been the subject of a materially false written statement distributed on October 15 to 47 recipients, that the statement alleged her husband had abandoned her, that her husband had in fact been physically present with her at the time the statement was sent, that the statement constituted defamation per se under North Carolina General Statute 99-1, and that my client was hereby demanding a written retraction, sent to all 47 original recipients, within 7 days. The letter did not mention the luncheon. The letter did not mention the building. The letter did exactly what Adrian had promised it would do, which was arrive on a Friday afternoon like a brick through a window, without warning, without theater, without a single adjective. My phone rang at 3:47. It was my mother. I did not answer. My phone rang at 3:52. My mother. I did not answer. My phone rang at 3:58, 4:04, 4:11, 4:19, 4:26. I let every call go to voicemail. I did not listen to them. Adrian had told me not to listen to them. Do not, Adrian had said, give her any reason to claim you engaged with her before Saturday. The next time she sees you in a room full of people, with a folder in your hand. At 5:14, my father called. That one I listened to. His voice on the voicemail was tired. Clara, honey, he said, your mother got a letter today from a lawyer. She's very upset. She says you're suing her. Please call her. Please. You know how she is. Let it go. I could hear the 3 words he did not say, sitting underneath the ones he had. I did not call him back. I put the phone face down on the counter. I made dinner. I ate it with my husband. I slept 7 hours. Adrian called me Saturday morning at 8:02. Clara, she said, how are you feeling? Awake, I said. Good, she said. Bring the folder. Bring the letter. Bring your husband. And Clara, one more thing. Whatever your mother does today, whatever she says, do not raise your voice. Your power in that room is that you will be the only person in it who is not performing. Understood? Understood, I said. I hung up. I put on the green dress from Anne's wedding. If you are still with me, if you have made it this far into this story, I want to tell you something before we walk into that country club. I know some of you are watching this on a lunch break at a job where you have been quiet for too long. I know some of you are watching this in a parked car because you needed 10 minutes to be somewhere no one is asking anything of you. I know some of you are watching this with a mother's voicemail sitting unplayed on your phone. If this story is doing anything for you, please subscribe and turn on the bell so the next one lands in your feed when you need it. It helps more than you know. Now let me tell you what happened when we walked through those doors. The country club in Fayetteville is one of those buildings that has not been redecorated since 1987 and does not plan to be. Green carpet. Brass sconces. A portrait of a horse over the entrance to the dining room. Ryan and I arrived at 11:52 for a noon luncheon. My mother had told everyone the door would close at noon sharp. And was already there, in a navy dress, holding her 2 children's hands. My father was standing near the bar, in a gray suit that was slightly too tight across the shoulders, nursing a club soda. My mother was at the center of the room in a cream-colored suit with a brooch shaped like a magnolia, and the moment she saw me walk in with Ryan at my side, her face did a thing I had watched it do for 19 years. It rearranged itself. It went from surprise to confusion to a specific kind of brightness that was not joy but strategy. Clara, honey, she said, crossing the room, oh, sweetheart, I am so glad you came. And Ryan. She said Ryan's name the way you say the name of a ghost who has just sat down at your breakfast table. Ryan. You made it. Ryan smiled. Ryan is good at this. Hi, Linda, he said. Happy birthday. He did not hug her. He did not offer his hand. He stood beside me with his hand on the small of my back, calm as a Tuesday. My mother's smile flickered. She turned to the room. Everyone, she said brightly, Clara and Ryan are here. Isn't that wonderful? 58 heads turned. I watched faces. I watched the specific micro-expressions of people who had received a text on a Sunday morning and were now looking at a photograph that contradicted it. Mrs. Henderson from the church. Mrs. Dunham, who, impossibly, was still alive and had been invited. My mother's business partner, a woman named Coral who ran the front of the catering company. 3 of my mother's cousins from Lumberton. 2 pastors. Diane, Ryan's mother, whom I had quietly invited the night before, sitting at a table near the back in a lavender blouse, her hands folded in her lap, watching my mother the way a forensic accountant watches a ledger. My mother did not know Diane had come. I told Coral I would wait for her to be ready. Coral cried again, differently this time, and said thank you. My father called me on Sunday, exactly 8 days after the luncheon. He called at 6:47 in the evening. I was sitting on the back porch with a book. I picked up. "Clara," he said, and then he did not say anything for a long time. I waited. I had been waiting for 19 years. I could wait another minute. "Honey," he said finally, "I owe you an apology I don't know how to make." I listened. I did not rush him. I did not help him. He had to walk this road himself. "I let her talk about you," he said. "I let her say things in rooms I was in. I told myself it wasn't my business, that she was just venting, that you were strong enough to handle it. I told myself a lot of things, Clara. None of them were true. The truth is I was scared of her. I have been scared of her since 1994. And I used you as the thing she had to be mad about, so she wouldn't have to be mad at me. I am so sorry, honey." I let the silence sit. I did not fill it for him. "Dad," I said finally, "thank you for saying that. I believe you are sorry. I also need you to know that my relationship with you, going forward, is going to look different than it did. I am not cutting you off. I am also not pretending the last 19 years did not happen. I would like you to come visit me in Raleigh, without Mom, sometime in the next few weeks. Just you. We can have dinner. We can go slow." He was quiet for a moment. "Clara," he said, "I would like that very much." We hung up. I put the phone down on the porch railing. I watched the light change in the yard. My husband came out with 2 glasses of wine and sat next to me. He did not ask. He knew. He simply sat. The building transition took 90 days. Coral and 3 former employees started a new catering company out of the same Main Street kitchen in January, under a new name, with a new lease, signed directly with my holding company. Coral hired 2 of the women who had been cooking for my mother for over a decade. The new company booked its first wedding in February. They did not need my help. They just needed the kitchen. The kitchen, for the first time in 14 years, belonged to people who were not lying to anyone. My mother, I was told by Anne, closed Weston Family Catering in late December. She did not open another business. She did not move out of town. She continued attending her church, where attendance, and told me, had grown quieter around her. Mrs. Henderson had not spoken to her since the luncheon. 2 of the pastors had asked her, gently, to take a season away from the women's ministry. My mother did not call me again after the 4 Saturday voicemails. She did not text me. She did not send a Christmas card. I did not send her one either. That was not cruelty. That was accuracy. I was not in a relationship with my mother. I had not been in a real relationship with my mother since I was 15 years old. The only difference now was that both of us finally knew it. Diane, Ryan's mother, drove down from Columbus again in March, just to see me. She stayed for a weekend. On Saturday afternoon, she and I sat on my back porch, and she said something I will carry with me for the rest of my life. "Clara," she said, "when I watched your mother speak at your wedding, I knew. I have known for 10 years. I waited for you to know. Some daughters have to be the ones to say it out loud. I am so proud of you for saying it out loud." I cried then, for the first time since the luncheon. Not hard. Just a clean, honest cry. Diane sat beside me and did not say anything else. She did not need to. A mother who is not your mother, loving you the way a mother is supposed to love a daughter, is one of the great quiet gifts this life can hand you. I had been holding it for 10 years without naming it. That Saturday afternoon, I finally named it. My father came to Raleigh the first weekend in April. Just him. He drove himself. He stayed at a hotel near our house, because that was what I had asked for and he had respected it. He came for dinner on Friday night. He came back on Saturday for breakfast. He met the dog. He helped Ryan hang a shelf in the garage. He did not ask about my mother. He did not defend her. He asked me about my work. He asked me about the books I was reading. He asked me, quietly, on Saturday afternoon, if I would show him the building. I drove him to Fayetteville. We parked across the street. We did not go inside. We sat in the car and looked at it. My father looked at the Weston family catering sign, which Coral had taken down in January and replaced with the new company's name. He looked at it for a long time. "Clara," he finally said, "you bought the ground she stood on." I smiled. I had not used those exact words out loud to anyone. He had arrived at them on his own. "Yes, Dad," I said. "I did." He nodded slowly. "Good," he said. "Good, honey. That was the right thing." We drove back to Raleigh in comfortable silence. And I are closer than we have ever been. Her 2 children call me Aunt Clara now in a way that sounds like they mean it, because they see me more often than they used to and because nobody in our family is telling them a fake version of who I am anymore. And told me in February that she had asked our mother, directly, one afternoon in January, why she had done it. Why she had sent the text. Why she had told the shoplifting story when I was 15. Why she had made up Brandon. Why? And said our mother had looked at her for a long moment and said, because I was tired, and Clara was strong, and strong people can carry what tired people cannot. That was the answer. 19 years of lies reduced to a single sentence that was, finally, honest. I was not the villain of my mother's story. I was the load-bearing wall. The moment I refused to bear the load, the whole house had to reveal what it was actually made of. It turned out it was made of paper. It turned out it always had been. 1 year later, on the Sunday morning that was exactly 12 months after the group text, I woke up at 7:30. Ryan was already in the kitchen. The dog was on the rug. My mother had not invited Diane. Diane had driven 7 hours from Columbus because I had called her on Friday night and told her what was going to happen, and Diane had said, without pausing, "I'll be there. Put me at a back table. I want to see her face." We sat down. I was at the head table, 3 seats from my mother. Ryan was beside me. And was across from me. My father was at my mother's left. The string quartet began to play. Lunch was served at 12:40. Salad, then chicken, then a dessert cart. My mother stood up at 1:18 to give what she called a little welcome. She spoke for 14 minutes. She spoke about her business. She spoke about her church. She spoke about her 2 daughters, one of whom, she said, had recently walked through a very difficult season that the family would not discuss today, but for which she asked the room's continued prayers. She gestured toward me. 58 heads turned. I smiled politely. I did not speak. Ryan's hand found mine under the tablecloth. I squeezed it once. My mother continued. She thanked everyone for the outpouring of love that had filled her week. She said she had been overwhelmed. She said a family goes through things, and a mother carries what a mother carries. Then she sat down. The room applauded. My mother dabbed her eyes with a napkin. Coral, the business partner, stood up and gave a second toast about what a wonderful boss my mother was. A cousin from Lumberton stood up and read a poem she had written. The photographer moved around the room taking candid shots. My mother glowed. The luncheon was working exactly the way she had planned it. At 1:52, my mother stood up one more time and said, "And now I would like to invite my daughter Clara to say a few words." She said it with the specific generosity of a queen offering the microphone to a subject she has confidence will use it correctly. She sat down. She folded her hands in her lap. She smiled at the room. I stood up. I did not take a piece of paper out of my purse. I did not pick up my water glass. I did not clear my throat. I had been writing this toast for 19 years in my head and I did not need notes. I looked at my mother first. I looked at her for 3 full seconds. Then I looked at the room. "Good afternoon," I said. "My name is Clara Weston. For those of you who do not know me personally, I am Linda's older daughter. I want to start by acknowledging something. Last Sunday morning at 11:04 a.m., 47 of you received a text message from my mother stating that my husband Ryan had left me the night before." The room stopped. I did not wait. "Ryan is sitting beside me," I said. "He has been beside me every morning for 10 years, including Sunday morning, including right now." The statement in that text message was false. It was written and distributed as a factual claim, in writing, to a defined group of 47 people, and it has been the subject of a formal legal communication to my mother from my attorney, which she received yesterday afternoon. I paused. Mrs. Henderson put down her fork. Coral went still. My father's face had gone the color of paper. My mother's hand had come up to her brooch and stopped there. "I am not here today to discuss that letter," I said. "That letter is between my mother and her attorney. I am here today to do 2 things. First, to wish my mother a happy 60th birthday. Mom, happy birthday. I mean that. 60 years is a long life and you have built parts of it that are worth celebrating." My mother's mouth opened slightly. She had not expected that sentence. I had known she would not. It was the one sentence in the toast that was not about her. It was about me. It was about the woman I was choosing to be in this room. "Second," I said, and I reached down into the chair beside me and picked up the manila folder I had placed there at 11:54. "Second, there is a business matter I would like to address, because 58 of the people in this room are people my mother has spoken to about our family over the last 19 years, and it is important to me that the business matter be handled in front of the same audience." I walked around the table. I walked slowly. I did not hurry. Hurrying would have been a mistake. I stopped beside my mother's chair. I laid the folder on the white tablecloth in front of her. I did not open it. "Mom," I said, "inside this folder is a letter informing Weston Family Catering that the lease on its Main Street location will not be renewed when it expires in 11 days. Coral's hand went to her mouth. My mother's eyes had not yet moved to the folder. They were fixed on my face. "Mr. Haverford sold the building in June," I said. "The new owner is a holding company. The holding company is owned by me. I have been your landlord for 4 months. I did not tell you because I needed to see what you would do. On Sunday morning, you told me what you would do." The room did not breathe. My mother's hand left her brooch. It went to the folder. It did not open it. It lay flat on top of it, as if holding it closed could hold something else closed. "You have 60 days to vacate the premises," I said. "Coral, my attorney has already been in touch with yours. There is a clean path forward for you personally, if you want it. We can talk Monday." Coral nodded. Coral was crying, quietly, not for my mother. "Mom," I said, and now I lowered my voice, because the sentence I was about to say was only for her, even though 58 people were listening. "I want you to hear me one time. I have been awake the entire time. I was awake when I was 15. I was awake at the Thanksgiving table in 2019. I was awake last Sunday morning at 11:04. I am awake right now. The building is mine. The letter is mine. The choice of what happens in the next 60 days is yours. Happy birthday." I turned around. I walked back to my seat. I sat down. Ryan's hand found mine again. I did not look at my mother. I did not need to. 58 people were looking at her for me. The room did not recover in a clean way. Rooms never do. My mother sat with her hand on the folder for what felt like a long time but was probably 20 seconds. Coral stood up and walked quietly to the back of the room and out through the side doors, her napkin still in her hand. The light was coming in through the window over the sink the way October light does in North Carolina, thin and clean. My phone was on the nightstand. I picked it up. There was no message from my mother. There had not been a message from my mother in 12 months. I did not feel sad about it. I did not feel triumphant about it. I felt, for lack of a better word, accurate. I was living in an accurate version of my life, for the first time in my life, and the accuracy was the gift. I went downstairs. Ryan handed me a cup of coffee. "Clara," he said, "what do you want to do today?" I looked out the window. "Nothing," I said. "I want to do nothing. I want to sit on the porch with you and the dog and read a book and not be the subject of a single sentence anyone is saying anywhere." He smiled. "Deal," he said. We sat on the porch for most of the morning. Around 11, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my father. "Thinking of you today, honey. I love you. Dad." I typed back one sentence. "I love you too, Dad. Come down next weekend." He replied with a thumbs up. That was enough. That was, finally, enough. If you are watching this, and you have a mother who has spent your life telling other people a version of you that is not you, I want you to hear me. You do not have to burn her house down. You do not have to scream. You do not have to post anything on the internet. You do not have to convince anyone of anything. You only have to do one thing, and that one thing is to stop agreeing to carry a suitcase that is not yours. The suitcase has been hers the whole time. She has just been very good at making you believe it was yours. The day you set it down, she will tell you that you are abandoning her. She will tell 47 people. She will tell a room at a country club. She will send a group text. She will do whatever she has always done, because what she has always done has always worked. Let her. Let her do it out loud, in writing, in front of witnesses. And while she is doing it, quietly, patiently, without theater, build the thing she does not know you are building. Sign the papers. File the letters. Keep the screenshots. Love the people who love you back, the ones who have been telling you the truth in small voices for years. And when the right day comes, walk into the room, say 9 sentences, hand her the folder, and walk back out. That is all. That is the whole thing. You do not need to be cruel. You only need to be accurate. Accuracy is the quietest form of love you can offer a person who has lied about you your entire life. It is also, it turns out, the loudest. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If this story reached something in you, please check out the other videos on your screen right now. I think you will find the next one is already waiting for you. And if you have not yet subscribed, please do. I will see you in the next story.